to education, we're joined by the man himself, Dr. Sizwe Nxasana, co-founder and CEO of Sifiso Learning Group. So good to have you with us, Doctor. You know, I say Dr. Nxasana, but to be honest with you, it feels like you've been a doctor for a very long time, Dr. Sizwe.
Well, you know, I have 5 honorary doctorates, and sometimes people call you, doctor, which are often refused to be called doctor unless I'm in those institutions that gave me honorary doctorate. So, yes, yeah.
So now you can be a doctor all round. It doesn't matter the institution.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
I was saying a bit earlier on when I was talking to my colleagues and I was telling them about the conversation that we're about to have, that with high achievers, whether it's male or female, when they talk about retirement, it's not really retirement. It's really about changing hats. It's really about shifting gears, because you seem to have continued running just as fast as you were running while you were in corporate. Tell us why.
Well, for me, for starters, there's no word called retirement in my personal dictionary. It just doesn't exist. As long as I'm healthy and I can continue to work. South Africa, is a place with so many opportunities, and every problem that we have in the country is a challenge that is waiting for someone to solve. So, yeah, that's why for me, a life of service, a life of purpose, a life of now, making it better for young people is really what it's all about.
And what is it that facilitated that move, Dr. Nxasana, from corporate leadership to the education sector?
Well, I think we need to go back a little bit, because in my younger years as a chartered accountant, when I started what is now S&G Grant Thornton, which is the 5th largest firm in South Africa. I was also involved in education then. I was a lecturer, actually, in my 20s, a lecturer in accounting, auditing, and taxation. So, the wheel has come full cycle, actually. But, when I look at where we are as a country in education, obviously education is a societal issue. Everybody has a stake in it, and everybody has a view in it. And for me, it's about trying to solve those problems that we talk about in the country all the time. So I want to be part of the solution. So I got involved in education. In fact, I never left education, to be very honest, because even when I was in corporate, as an example, when I was at Sizwe Nxasana, the S&G Grant Thornton now, I was involved in ABASA. I was one of the presidents of ABASA for a couple of years. And we were going out to schools to teach young people about careers, about accounting and what's important, particularly issues like the importance of mathematics, as an example. And when I joined Telkom, I was the chair of the Telkom Foundation, which was the first time that the CEO of that particular company was chairing the foundation. I redirected that foundation towards education.
And was that my apologies, Doctor, was that a personal choice on your side to say, yes, I'm CEO, but I also want to run the foundation?
Absolutely, yeah. And it was the same at First Rand. So as the CEO of the First Rand Banking Group, I was also the chair of both the First Rand Empowerment Foundation and the First Rand Foundation. And the same thing happened there. Those foundations were doing a lot of other things, but I felt it was important for them to focus their attention on education. So I actually never left education. I'm now a practitioner as well as an academic now, because I really think in this chapter of my life, it is important to make that contribution in education very, very directly, because we have a number of challenges.
And we'll talk about those challenges in just a moment, Doctor. But I'm quite intrigued, and I wonder, the senior roles that you've held in corporate, how do they impact your educational style? How have they perhaps impacted the how of your teaching?
Well, in a number of ways, because whether I was in accounting and auditing or in telecoms or banking, there's always an issue in South Africa about everybody complaining about the quality of education that we give our young people, and the mismatch that we have as a country between what the country needs, particularly in terms of the economy, but just generally, what skills and competencies do we need versus what is produced by the education system. And there's a huge mismatch. We talk about the high levels of unemployment in the country or inequality in the country. My own view is that the root cause of all of that can be traced back to education. What are we teaching? From preschool all the way up to post-school, in other words, community colleges, TVET colleges, and universities.
Your doctoral thesis, titled Navigating Teacher Learning in a Context of Implementing Project-Based Learning in South Africa's K-12 Education, what informed that? Why did you choose that as a particular topic and subject? And what were your key learnings as you were doing your research and writing your thesis?
So there is no education system which can be better quality than the quality of its teachers. It's just not possible. We'll talk about technology or artificial intelligence and so on. You cannot replace teachers in the classroom. And that's why my own focus is on teachers, because there are many different elements in education. There's curriculum, there's obviously students, there's infrastructure, and so on. And we know many, many stories of schools that may even have poor infrastructure, but through great teachers are able to produce young people who go on to realize their full potential in life. So that's why my focus was particularly on how do we prepare our teachers for a fast-changing world that is impacted by technology, where they're able to not just impart knowledge or encourage the acquisition of knowledge of learners, but they're able to also acquire the skills and competencies themselves, which are important to impart to young people, because it's very difficult as a teacher to impart something that you don't have. So these days, we require young people who can solve problems, who can think critically, who can collaborate with others, who can be entrepreneurs, who can be, problem solvers and innovators. And that actually requires that teachers have those skills to allow young people to do that. So that's why when you look at my thesis, it is about what we've been doing at Future Nation schools, which are the schools that I started 8 years or 9 years ago now. Understanding where those teachers come from, because a lot of them come from very traditional learning and teaching environments, in fact, all of them. And then, transforming those teachers to become teachers who have those skills and competencies that allow young people to fully realize their potential.
Doctor, in the advent and development of artificial intelligence and technology, young people now have access to a whole lot more information than they had before. And in many instances, one could argue that there are some areas that perhaps they're even more adept at than the very teachers themselves. How then can teachers be capacitated in order to deal with the really different, evolving, perhaps even more challenging teaching and learning environment?
Yeah, that is why at our schools, and we're now working with government in a number of provinces to introduce problem-based learning or project-based learning, because what that does is it allows teachers to learn with students or with learners. You talk about artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence has changed or is changing the way learning and teaching takes place in the classroom. But what is important is to actually allow teachers to, one, acquire the skills in technology so that they're not only helping learners or students to become digital citizens in a responsible way, because there are a lot of irresponsible things that young people can do using artificial intelligence as an example. So just teaching young people what is going on when it comes to technology is important, and they, in the process, learn with the young people, because as you correctly say, very often young people may be a lot more adept in acquiring these skills. So it's creating teachers with a mindset of continuous learning. That is why for me, the fact that at my age, I'm able to go to university and acquire these skills, hopefully acts as an indication that lifelong learning is something that all of us can do. And therefore, talking about technology, teachers are mediators of learning, right? So in the context of technology, in the context of unemployment, in the context of all the challenges that we face, we need to encourage young people and direct them in the right way. Because even with AI, I mean, if you don't know how to prompt correctly, if you don't know how to distinguish between fake things or information and the reality, you're going to really lead young people, down the wrong path.
And
so that's why.
No, and I was saying, Doctor, just agreeing with what you're saying, what you put in is what you'll get out. And if you don't have the skills to prompt accurately, then you're not really going to get the full usage and full benefit of whatever artificial intelligence or software system that you're using. But we're going to have to leave it at that for this afternoon, Dr. Sizwe. Please go ahead,
started
sir.
The schools. Yeah, I mean, we started the schools, we started an education technology company, so we train our young people on different coding languages. It may be Python, maybe Java, it may be C# or whatever. So we teach young people, where does AI come from? How do they create a lot of things themselves using artificial intelligence? It may be machine learning, it may be using and developing solutions for large language models and so on. It is important for young people not just to be consumers of artificial intelligence or technology generally, but to be creators.
And is this all part of the Sifiso learning group? Is that all part of the Sifiso learning group?
Yes, absolutely. So our education technology company is called Sifiso EdTech, Education Technology, and that's what we do. And we're able to integrate a lot of technologies in our classrooms, train teachers how to use them so that they can also impart those skills and competencies to young people.
Dr. Sizwe Nxasana, always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. And I dare say every time you and I have conversations, there's always something new because you're always doing something different, always innovating, you and Dr. Judy as well. Thank you very much for your time and wish you continued success.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's Dr. Sizwe Nxasana, co-founder and CEO of Sifiso Learning Group.